Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Richard Botterill. I'm an emergency room nurse at Providence, Portland, where I am the chair of the negotiating team and also a board member at ONA.
And my name is Jessica Lobel. I work at Providence St. Vincent in labor and delivery, and I am the vice chair of our bargaining team, and I am also on the board of directors at ONA.
So today, Jessica and I are going to talk about how we can improve our whole way of handling dues and the dues structure at ONA so we can build a stronger union as we move forward and as we continue to grow and expand the coverage we have and the support we provide throughout the state of Oregon. So I think it's been fairly obvious to a lot of people that we're setting a new standard for healthcare across the state. We've had record growth in membership in recent years to where today we have well over 20,000 members across the state of Oregon. We've had a lot of huge wins at the bargaining table and continue with that process. We've had huge raises for RNs across our entire state. And we had the first strike in more than 2 decades. And then after that, we had the largest nursing strike in Oregon history. So we've had some critical legislation, Oregon Safe Staffing Law, and we're gearing up to pass some comprehensive workplace violence legislation next year in next year's session when it opens in 2025. Perhaps one of the biggest changes that we've seen is that we're seeing a lot of healthcare professionals now that are not necessarily nurses that are joining ONA because of the gains made by RNs. And this is including hospitalists, emergency room doctors, diagnostic imaging, a whole bunch of other care providers, across our state. So contracts are great. The safe staffing law is great, and they're as good as our ability to enforce them and to make sure that they continue to work and work as advertised and as needed across our state. So if you want to keep setting this high bar that we have established and to enforce our contracts and the laws, which is going to be a challenge for us, I know, over the upcoming years, our due structure needs to change to be able to support that growth. So we take a step back and look at what are union dues exactly. Everyone pays them. They contribute to provide the resources we need to have an equal footing with our employers. And so here's a little visual that shows the kind of things that these dues go towards supporting. Obviously, contract negotiation and enforcement is huge. ONA staff, as we grow, we need more staff to support that growth, whether that's in labor representatives or whether it's in organizing. We need legal support because there's a lot of issues that have been coming up, especially since the passing of House Bill 2697. We continue to develop policy and continue to work with advocacy down in Salem with our elected leaders across the state. Communications, the swag that we have, the t-shirts and so forth, and then professional services and development. We all need to grow, and that includes the folks at ONA as we grow as a union. So today we have a pretty large variety in how union dues are collected. It depends on your job, where you live in the state, and different members can end up paying different amounts. With RNs with a collective bargaining agreement, pay a flat rate, and that base is calculated at 1% of the third-year weighted average base wage. Very complicated for all represented RNs across the state as of April the 1st each year. So on top of that base, we have dues including funding for the PAC, strike fund, organizing fund, and a lot more. And that all varies from hospital to hospital, from employer to employer. There are some members paying additional bargaining unit and constituent association fees. And then there's non-nurse members who are currently paying a percentage of their wages. So what are the problems? Yearly dues increases happen independent of any of your wage increases. In other words, your current dues are not based on your own wage increases in timing or amount. So the increases occur every July 1st. The problem, it's inequitable and it's unfair. Our current dues assessments are not applied equally to all members. So this results where we have some members paying less than 1% of their wages in dues, others paying more than 2.5%. It also means that some of our bargaining units receive way more funding than others, depending upon what categories members are paying into. Here's a good visual of what we're seeing today. So this is based on our flat rate dues of $1,524, which are estimated projections for the 2025-2026 under the current structure. And as you can see, if you're earning a lot more, you're paying a way lower percentage than those who are coming into nursing for the first time, into the union for the first time, who will pay a much higher percentage of their overall salary and dues. It's hard to articulate. People come to me, and I know they come to others and say, well, what is our due structure? How do we pay? So when people coming in and they're asking that question, it's difficult to answer because of the complex due structure. So many members find the process incomprehensible, and this is a significant barrier to when we're trying to organize and bring more people into our union, so we have a stronger position in all of our employers' environments. As mentioned a minute ago, it's complex, it's unworkable, it's unsustainable. We're growing. ONA is growing. I mentioned earlier, well over 20,000 members now. And it's growing not just in numbers, but it's growing in the type of healthcare providers that are joining that are not necessarily RNs. So as our membership grows, we have to keep up our highest standards so we can negotiate the strongest contracts for all members, and that means a new due structure. The current structure doesn't work well because many of our employees are not able to actually process the list of the complex types of dues and different categories that are required of them. Our own database is reaching breaking point because we're not able to handle the growing list either, again, because of the complex dues types and calculations. So as we grow, we are spending a considerable amount of money and time to handle and process the dues calculations. It's simply not sustainable.
I'd like to talk to you about the new dues structure that we are proposing. We are proposing a 1.6% of gross wages for all ONA members with a cap. The cap would be the maximum amount members pay, and it will be assessed on a per paycheck basis. That means if you are paid every other week, which would be 26 paychecks per year, the cap will be $61.53 per paycheck. If you are paid twice a month or 24 paychecks per year, the cap will be $66.66 per year per paycheck. This was calculated by having an annual cap of $1,600 per year and dividing that amount per the number of paychecks. On this next slide, this is a graph of per paycheck dues amounts for salaries in the $10,000 increments ranging from $60,000 per year to $140,000 per year. The x-axis along the bottom is annual wages, and the y-axis along the side is the amount of dues paid per paycheck. The cap kicks in at $100,000 per year. The dark blue columns are for folks that are paid every other week, and the teal columns are for folks that are paid twice a month. As you can see, this is a much more equitable system than the current due structure. I'll leave this slide up for a moment so you can take a second to look at it. Now I'd like to give you an example of two members and what they would pay. Member A is paid just over $70,000 per year, and member B is paid more than $146,000 per year, more than double what member A makes. Both members under this scenario are paid every other week or 26 times a year. Under the current due structure, both members pay the same amount, even though their wages are vastly different. Please note that we use the estimated annual amount of dues under the current structure for fiscal year 2025 to 2026, when the new due structure would go into effect. But under the new due structure, with both members paying 1.6% of gross wages, member A would pay $43.22 per paycheck, or $1,123.79 per year, whereas member B would be at the cap and pay $61.53 per paycheck, or $1,600 per year. The difference for member A between the current due structure and the new structure would be $15.40 less in dues per paycheck, and the difference for member B would be $2.91 more in dues per paycheck. With the new due structure, everything is included, meaning there are no add-ons or additional fees. Under the current due structure, not all bargaining units and constituent associations receive funding, but under the new due structure, that will change with equitable funding across all bargaining units and constituent associations. No less than 1% of dues will be allocated for constituent associations with the goal of averaging $20 per member per year. Additionally, there would be no less than 3% of dues for bargaining units with a goal of averaging $20 per member per year. This means more funding for you at the local level. Funding for our PAC to support candidates and ballot measures will be remaining the same, both in terms of the process to contribute to our PAC and the amount of funding our PAC receives. The new due structure also includes funding for the strike fund, organizing fund, and the dues for the American Nurses Association, AFT, and the AFL-CIO. Now let's talk about the cap. To keep pace with inflation and ensure that ONA continues to thrive, the cap, which we're proposing at $1,600 per year, may be adjusted once per year based on the Consumer Price Index West region. The CPI is calculated by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics to measure inflation. The Board of Directors will have the discretion to increase the dues cap by an additional 5% above the CPI to support ONA in special and unique situations. As an example, if the CPI goes up by 3%, then the cap would increase by $48 for a total of $1,648 per year. For those who make enough money to be at the cap, they would see their dues increase by $4 per month under this example. We know there are unions that currently have a fixed cap that are actively trying to change it. Attaching a cap to the CPI is the fiscally responsible thing for us to do and will help sustain ONA for years to come. Other things to know about the new dues structure. Recent graduates that are new to ONA will still receive a recent grad discount on dues. Recent grads will not pay for dues for their first 4 months of employment. If they were an Oregon Student Nurses Association member during school, they will not pay dues for their first 5 months of employment. The new dues structure will increase ONA revenue by an estimated 6% above the 2024-2025 dues. For members not represented by ONA for collective bargaining, those professional association members are currently based on a restrictive calculation that is tied to represented member dues. This means as dues increase for represented members, professional association dues also go up. Under the current structure, the board has the option to increase dues, but not to decrease them. Under the new structure, professional association dues will be set by the board annually with the following limitations. No greater than 50% of the cap. For example, the cap is $1,600, which means that the flat rate can be no more than $800. A recent grad of a nursing program, dues will be no more than 25% of the cap. For a permanently disabled member, retired member, or member over 70, dues will be no more than 10% of the cap. These amounts are the maximum that the board can set for the dues for members who do not have collective bargaining. The goal of the new dues structure for non-represented members is to look at comparable rates and get feedback from professional association members to help set the dues to an amount that helps our non-union membership grow and give them fair representation. So the process, per ONA bylaws, restructuring our dues is truly a democratic process. The elected members of the ONA Board of Directors passed the proposal in January of 2024. The House of Delegates overwhelmingly voted to approve the proposal in May of 2024. Now, the full ONA membership will have the opportunity to vote on the new dues proposal from August 5 through August 12. If the new dues structure is approved, then ONA staff will work with our employers on implementation, and the new dues structure will take effect on July 1, 2025. Voting will take place by electronic ballot between Monday, August 5 at 8 a.m. and Monday, August 12 at 5 p.m. You will receive your ballots via email. Per ONA bylaws, the dues measure will pass with 50% plus one of those voting casting a yes vote. ONA has won big in recent years, but our current dues structure is outdated, overly complex, unfair, and unsustainable. To keep our momentum, the ONA Board of Directors has recommended a new dues structure, 1.6% of gross wages with a $1,600 per year cap. This new dues structure is more equitable, transparent, sustainable, and will continue to help ONA raise standards for healthcare professionals across Oregon. The elected members of the ONA Board and House of Delegates have already approved the new dues structure, and now the full membership has the opportunity to vote from Monday, August 5 through Monday, August 12.
Thank you, Jessica. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time today. Hopefully, you can see that it's needed that we build a firmer, stronger, and broader foundation for our union as we continue to grow and expand into the future. If you have questions or feedback, please go to OregonRN.org/stronger future. We have a flyer. This presentation is there, FAQs, and a contact form that you can get any question answered, and much, much more. So in early August, please look for your ballot in an email, and together we can build a stronger future for ONA. Thank you for your time.